Welcome back to Bear Traps and Pitfalls of Title 24 Acceptance Testing, the 2013 code version, for designers, architects, engineers, and anybody who has to install controls or fill out forms. Let's take a look at the compliance forms associated with each step of the compliance process. Compliance forms are signed by, quote, the designer, unquote. Installation forms are signed by, quote, the installer, unquote. And acceptance testing forms are filled out by acceptance test technicians. This form should appear on the building plans. It shows a check-off list of all lighting compliance forms required for the project itself, including itself, which is a little weird, but there it is. Also shown on the list and attached to the building plans is Form NRCC LTI 02-E. That's I for indoor, C for compliance, 01 is the number of the form. We'll look at 02 next, and the trailing E is for enforcement, so this gets turned into the building department. In fact, all these forms do. This form lists the lighting controls. The next one we're going to look at, 02E, lists the lighting controls, their locations, whether they are mandatory under the code, and if acceptance testing is required for them. Also shown on Form NRCI LTI 01-E is a checklist of installation forms for the project. The two of interest to us today are NRCI for install -LTI for indoor -02-E, lighting control systems, and also the 05 version of the form, power adjustment factors claimed. Here's a list of the acceptance testing forms that might be required for the project indoors. Now, bear in mind we are looking at the forms out of the 2013 Non-Residential Compliance Manual because right now those are in effect. They will be in effect until January 1st of 2017. In fact, this course will no longer be valid after January 1st, 2017, and we'll replace it with a new 2016 Pitfalls course. How exciting. Here's a compliance form, NRCC for compliance -LTI for indoor -02-E for enforcement, which should be attached to the building plans upon submission to the authority having jurisdiction. Note the columns to list the location, type, and number of lighting controls. Also note the column to check off if acceptance testing is required for this control. If the control only functions to fulfill 130.1A area controls and or 130.1B multi-level controls requirements, then acceptance testing is not required. However, if the control is fulfilling mandatory requirements for 130.1 Charlie shutoff controls, Delta automatic daylighting controls, skylit or primary side lit, or 130.1E automatic demand response, or 140.6D automatic daylighting controls in a secondary side lit area, then acceptance testing must be specified because these columns that are shown highlighted in orange are the ones that are mandatory under the law and are required to be acceptance tested. Please note there is a column to be checked for claimed PAFs, that's power adjustment factors. There is also a table to calculate the control credits, which is in wattage. In a bizarre twist, there is currently one type of power adjustment factor that requires acceptance testing. Here is where a mandatory occupant sensing device or system, or optionally a mandatory building timer from 130.1 Charlie would be checked off and acceptance testing would be required. Here is where a mandatory automatic daylighting control from 130.1 Delta would be checked off if controlling lighting in a daylit zone created by a skylight, which is a skylit zone, or if controlling lighting in a daylit zone directly adjacent to a window, which is a primary side-lit daylit zone. Acceptance testing is always required for those two types of daylighting controls if they are otherwise mandatory under the code. Here is where a mandatory automatic daylighting control from 140.6D would be checked off if controlling lighting in a daylit zone created by a window but not directly adjacent to the window, which would be a secondary side-lit daylit zone. If this is a required control, acceptance testing is required. So why are they treating this differently? Why isn't this just under 130.1D? Why do we have a separate column for it? Well, just to complicate your life, there's such a thing as a performance trade-off, okay? And this can be done using the software method of design, the performance method. All right, you've got 3 paperwork methods, and then you have 1 performance method, and this must use a state-approved design software. To trade off a secondary side-lit daylit zone controller when other energy-reducing schemes are used in a building design, you have to use the performance method using state-approved software. To my knowledge, this is the only lighting control that can be traded off under the performance method. Here is where mandatory automatic demand response systems to satisfy 130.1E of the Building Energy Efficiency Standards are checked off. Acceptance testing is required. If a demand response system is installed in an area to claim a PAF, because in the 2013 code they still have that, 140.6 A2K shows the details of this PAF. It does not get checked off here, okay? And it does not require acceptance testing because it is an optional demand response system to earn a PAF. That demand response system, power adjustment factor, which is an optional system, would get checked off here as would all the other PAFs. And acceptance testing would not be required for any of them except for 1. By the way, you cannot claim a PAF for anything that is already required by the code. If you are claiming a PAF from row 2 of table 140.6-A, occupant sensing controls in large open plan offices, it is checked off here. Worked out for control credits on the table, and here's a surprise, acceptance testing is required. Right. Claiming the PAF from 140.6 A2I of the Building Energy Efficiency Standards, occupant sensing control controlling the general lighting in large open plan office areas above workstations triggers acceptance testing. This PAF is for the above areas in excess of 250 square feet and is based on the area under control of the occupancy sensor. And by the way, these rarely work properly, so maybe that's how the acceptance test technician got stuck having to check these. Here's the block on the form. Acceptance testing form NRCA for acceptance, LTI for indoor, 02-A, where a field technician is required to double check this PAF. Here's what goes wrong with this PAF. Some lighting designers, and certainly not you folks, try and arrange the control of the selected areas in a large open plan office by placing a ceiling mount occupancy sensor right in the middle of each area. These are difficult, if not impossible, to set up properly. If you surround each controlled area with ceiling mount sensors that look in to the controlled area, you should have much better luck getting them to work properly. Why is only one non-mandatory control selected for acceptance testing under the 2013 code? The author of this course does not know. Is this a proper requirement? The author of this course does not think so. I guarantee an acceptance test technician will not argue with this requirement. If something appears on an acceptance testing form, the field technician will test it. Here is our first look at an installation form. It shows a section where the person in charge of construction or installation of components or features checks off a verification for this particular PAF. So this installation certificate should have already been prepared for this PAF. And surprise! We'll discuss these forms in a bit more detail in a minute. These are not meant to be completed by the acceptance test technician. These should, in fact, be present on site before the field technician even arrives. It is unclear when these install forms are required to be prepared, but at a minimum they should be given to the, quote, building inspector, unquote, along with the lighting controls acceptance testing forms prior to the end of the final inspection by the authority having jurisdiction. Let's look at the outdoor version of these compliance forms. NRCC for compliance -LTO for outdoor -01-E for enforcement is a list of outdoor compliance forms required for the project. Here you see installation and acceptance testing forms that would be required if checked. It is assumed that at a minimum, NRCC LTO-01-E and NRCC LTO-02-E should be attached to the plans if appropriate. Here is NRCC LTO-02-E, sporting rows and columns similar to the indoor lighting controls compliance form. In this case, checking off anything as mandatory causes acceptance testing to be required. This one should also appear on the plans. Let's see who has to take responsibility for these install forms. By the way, all of these forms have a signature line for a person referred to as the, quote, documentation author, unquote. This is simply the person who physically filled out the compliance form in question. So no big deal, shouldn't be too confusing. You can find information on all of these forms, compliance, install, acceptance, in section 10-103 of Title 24, Section 1 of the Building Energy Efficiency Standards. Section 10-103 describes the install forms and goes on to describe what these forms shall be posted or made available with the building permits issued for the building, made available to the enforcement agency for all applicable inspections, and a copy of the certificates of installation shall be included with the documentation the builder provides to the building owner at occupancy. The installation certificates that an acceptance test technician would like to have supplied are NRCI LTI-02E, which tells him that an EMCS or lighting control system has been checked for Title 20 compliance and is commissioned. NRCI LTI-05E, which tells him that a large open office PAF has been set up and tested, and NRCI LTO-02-E, which is an outdoor EMCS or lighting control system installation verification. The specifications for installation inspections, such as they are found in section NA 7.7 of the reference appendices. As a lighting control system or EMCS has to be selected and purchased, installed and tested, and set up and commissioned, the responsible person signing these install forms is verifying that all of this has been done prior to acceptance testing. So why is all this stuff now required? The answer is because somebody, certainly not anyone listening to this, but somebody has not been doing their job properly. So now we have acceptance testing, and the acceptance test technician is certifying that all appropriate install forms are present, completed, and signed. All he can help the contractor with are forms for the things he has been required to test while filling out his forms. Anything else is, he doesn't have anything to tell you about it. If lighting controls have not been properly installed and commissioned or set up, they will not meet acceptance testing criteria. So what is this acceptance testing criteria? How do you know what the guy is going to be looking for? Well, to find out, you want to join me for Part 3 of the Pitfalls and Bear Traps of Title 24 acceptance testing under the 2013 code in a bit. And I'll get that out to you folks, and thank you for your time and patience.